Good afternoon, Mike Winkler here, and I wanted to take a minute and I wanted to talk about getting OT data into the IT security model. Now, if this doesn't mean anything to you, I won't be offended. Please move along to the next video and something that does hold your interest. If you're trying to make silicon chips or with oil refineries or have an auto plant, a lot of the current challenges involved in getting data out of this plant environment and into the corporate IT security model so that the managers at the top of the hill can make good decisions about overall enterprise security. Now, in the old days, we had air gaps. That is to say that the manufacturing environment was fully isolated with not a single strand of copper going outbound to the outside world, and it was easy to keep things running, but that doesn't work in the modern kind of network environment. So we're having to look at new ways to do this. So to start with, almost everybody uses some variation of the Perdue model. It's a good one. It causes things to be broken into functional areas, and you build things in such a way they communicate only as they need to communicate. And this keeps critical infrastructure or high-value plants, like an oil plant, up and running and functioning for years on end in a secure fashion. Now, trying to get security data out of this is a bit challenging. One of the things we run into is old protocols or odd pieces of equipment, things that are alerting or reporting in ways that aren't necessarily aimed at what we're trying to accomplish here. And this is a problem, right? Most of the newer gear is aiming towards kind of a standard syslog, as well as a great number of these pieces of equipment in the modern era are managed by Windows or Linux boxes, so that will just communicate in syslog by itself. But sometimes we do need to get logging data from industrial machinery that really doesn't want to, that isn't designed to work that way. So in cases like that, there is bridging technologies, right? What this means is some folks like Nozomi or like Honeywell, and there's a bunch of other good ones out there, that will sit in place and will take data from a furnace and say, hey, the furnace is at 400 degrees, that's great. Is that hot? Is that cold? Should the furnace be running this time of day? Is that going to ruin something? It straps context around your alerting, right? So it takes this data and it makes it something that's readable in a kind of standard enterprise security fashion. So those bridging technologies are often a necessary step to getting this done. Now, if we take a look at that security model, and I separate it out a little bit, I will take this data using the bridging technology or the native syslog, all the same to me, and we'll use that level 2.5. I will put a QRadar event collector. So this is something that has taken 514 UDP, just straight one-way communication, no return trip, and it sends it up to this collector, and this is all of the logging data, right? And it's how it's supposed to work. And from there, I have an encrypted IPsec tunnel that will go up to my QRadar, generally in the enterprise network or wherever you want to put it, even up in the cloud, depending on your preferences. By doing this, we can collect all of the data, send it to this intermediary point that balls it up, compresses, encrypts it, and sends it to where it can be used. This is, by and large, the system I see used most often in the OT to IT environment. Now, there's a number of variations here, but this is our basic model. Some folks use what is called a data diode. A data diode is a piece of hardware you put in place that allows only outbound communication. There's not a return packet, there's not a return ping, there's nothing. So what this means is it still works just fine with my 514 UDP because everything will pass in one direction through that data diode, and the same model works beautifully. Okay. So some people want something a little more complex than this, and sometimes there's a need for control at the plant environment. So same deal. I will get the logging going either native or with the bridging tech. But this time I will take a QRadar and I will build one at the plant level in that kind of site manufacturing, more or less that level 3. Okay, great. So that I will have the 514 UDP, just like in the previous circumstance, but I have full command and control and use of that data at the plant level. Okay, not at the enterprise level, so that we can go through and you have all of your reporting and alerting for use inside the plant. But this doesn't solve our original base problem. What we can do is I can send a subset of that data, log forwarding, up to the QRadar in the sky at the enterprise level. So some of these things that you care about at the manufacturing level, processor heat levels and these things that you don't really care about at the security level, you keep recorded at that plant level and you send the security applicable data up to the enterprise. This way, we don't violate the security model, we have plant level control of the data, and we have the enterprise level security. Really, everything falls into one of these same couple of models. This is roughly what we're seeing about how we're getting IT into the OT environment. Thank you. I'm Mike Winkler.